Hi, I'm Tasha with Pathways to Peace, and I want to tell you about this new book and game combo. It is Andy's Anger Explosions. So it is all about anger and a boy who's just struggling. He is having these anger eruptions, and it's really impacting his self-esteem. And he feels like he just can't get anything right, and he's frustrated. And like he has an anger outburst, and then the consequences, it's just like this vicious cycle, like he can't get out of it. So it starts out where he spills a soda and he just loses his mind, like, ah. And then he ends up having to sit by himself at lunch and he's lonely and just, it's a bad day. He's feeling out of control. And then at recess, he's playing with the kids and everything's going really well until he gets frustrated and he punts the basketball away from everybody. And then he has to sit out the rest of recess. Um, and then later he lands in the principal's office and he's having to write sentences. And this is where I kind of wove in something. It's a backdoor approach to talk about domestic violence. I think that domestic violence is a very important topic to cover. And it doesn't necessarily, the pages in here are very tied to the book. So if a kid has anger issues and there's no domestic violence issues, you can totally still use this book. But this might be a really good way to broach the subject if you know that a child has experienced domestic violence and they're hesitant to talk about it. So this is just kind of, it's woven in because they might really identify with it and maybe open up and tell their story about it. So anyway, the principal tells him, right now you're writing sentences and that's your consequence for today. But as you get older, the consequences get bigger. And she tells him a story about a dad who lost his temper and he hurt his kids. And so he ends up going to jail and he has to deal with the legal issues. And it takes him a long time to get his life back together after that. And so even though Andy is now aware of big consequences for his anger outbursts, he still has them. And so he's at a pool party and somebody just kind of throws the ball towards him and he gets splashed in the face and he loses his mind again and he yells at her and she's fed up with it. She's like, dude, you're just always yelling at me. I'm sick and tired of it. And she's like, I want you to stop. And he kind of was like, I don't know how to stop. And she was like, I got this. I can help you. And so first she tells him to pay attention to his body. What is going on? And this is really important for kids to have this body awareness of what happens in your body when the fight or flight response is going on. So he's got his fist balled up, his cheeks are turning pink, and he says he gets butterflies in his stomach. And then she tells him to do slow, deep breathing to turn off that fight or flight response. And, this is always number one go-to coping skill for kids that are having anger issues. You can do it anywhere. And then he learns lots of different coping skills that he can use to feel better whenever he's feeling out of control. And very importantly for anger as well is finding a healthy outlet for all of that angry energy. And so exercise is an important thing for these kids. And so in the end, he grows in confidence. He's able to laugh and have fun again. And he doesn't feel so out of control. Like he is now in control of his body instead of his body controlling him. So here is the game board. And the way this works is you start here in the volcano and kind of work your way back out. And so it says start and end, even though it's tiny, it's kind of hard to see on screen. So, and so there's 8 different game card topics, and I've already got the game cards cut out, so they're not in the book. And so we've got the principal, and this is just dealing with, how do different authority figures handle discipline whenever you get in trouble? Triggers, like this is the spilled soda. So, what are your triggers? What are the things that really just set you off? The water is like the little splash is about, there's a big difference between being bothered or annoyed with something and being enraged. And so this talks about scaling emotions and being able to tell, different levels, because if kids can learn how to take control of their anger whenever they're just bothered or frustrated, they'll be able to have a better luck with using their coping skills than if they wait until they are just completely out of control mad. And so this little fist, these cards talk about the different body signs to let them know that, they're having an issue there. The handcuffs talks about different consequences, and it also talks about appropriate behavior based on age. So, a 3-year-old hitting somebody is going to have different consequences than a 12-year-old hitting somebody. And that 12-year-old's not going to get nearly as much trouble as an adult who hits a child. And so it's bringing that awareness of thinking through, are my reactions age appropriate is one part of it. But another one is realizing I've got to get a grip on this thing now before things do get out of control. But of course, we are equipping them with the skills that they need to overcome. So the bicycle is all about, finding that physical outlet to let out anger in a healthy way. The football is, that playground recess, how are you going to handle these situations kind of parts. And then the poor little bunny that got ripped up by the dad. I've had some really sad stories of kids that have, smashed a tablet whenever they were in a rage or something like that. And so it gives an opportunity to not only think about, what have you done while you were angry that really caused you some problems, but also that empathetic viewpoint of how would you feel if somebody else ripped up your bunny or, your favorite toy. So it teaches kids to look at things from different perspectives. There's a lot of cognitive behavioral stuff woven into those cards as well. And so it is kind of just an all-in-one comprehensive start to finish anger game that really kind of highlights all those different aspects of anger management that the kids need to know to be able to get a grip on how to control their anger so that their anger isn't controlling them anymore. I hope it helps you guys as much as it's helping out my kiddos. Thanks.